Welcome back to another episode. We're talking about real estate transactions, and specifically, I want to focus more on the house hacking side of things. But uh, I'm a big DIYer, so I do a lot of my own financial transactions, whether it's financial planning, insurance, real estate, investment management, all the way down to the estate planning. Now, I can't implement all of those things myself, but a lot of those I can, mostly because I'm licensed to do all those things. I've got insurance licenses, real estate license, investment license. I've been previously mortgage licensed, and so I understand a lot of it, how it works. And so I did not know a lot of this stuff until I got into the industry and started figuring it out. And so for the consumer that's listening, don't feel down if you're like, you know what, I don't know if I have the time or desire to go out and get a license to maybe save a lot of money in a certain specific area. That's completely okay. So if you want to take advantage of saving or putting more equity of your own money in your pocket, the real estate area is a massive area to do that. So for an individual that is a DIYer and they think about how to manage money, how to save money, not just saving as in like money out of your paycheck, but saving as in on large transactions. So a big one is DIY investment management for passive investment style portfolios. And the average consumer that doesn't want to pay an investment professional to manage their investments, you're saving 1% a year, and that's a ballpark figure. That's not in concrete, but you're saving at least a percentage point per year on your portfolio if you were to manage it yourself. Now, some people might say, hey, you know what, I want to manage it myself, and that's completely fine, but there's others that don't want to do it. In the area of real estate, this is just as a big of an area, and it's an equivalent area, if not more, because for the investment manager that's charging 1% a year, that 1% is spread out over 20 to 30 years. For the real estate side of things, you might be giving up 6% of your equity, probably a minimum of 3 to 5% on a transaction of anywhere from, I would say the average price point for a home now, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, or lived in Charlotte, so I would say $400,000. So if you sold a $400,000 house and you decided to give up 6% of your equity, you're talking tens of twenties of possibly $30,000, and that is definitely not out of that's not unreasonable. I mean, there's tons of houses that are going for $500,000 to $1 million in and around Charlotte all day long, and that's not even getting into like the high net worth or the higher market value areas. So when we talk about how to save or make a lot of money in your own personal situation, real estate is definitely one of them. Buying and holding real estate for yourself when you have the license is going to consistently save you probably 1 to 3% every time you do a transaction. Now, when it comes time to sell a property that you own, you might be saving 3 to 6% of that equity. So if you want a side hustle, you don't have to just get the real estate for yourself. You can do a couple transactions a year. And really, once you get into that real estate world, you figure out, okay, how can I make money in real estate? How can I save money in real estate? And you can do that by buying and selling for yourself especially if you are in the accumulation stages of your life and you're like, you know what, I want to show up in retirement with 10 properties. All right, well, let's start by going and getting your real estate license. Let's get that license. Let's figure out how to make it worth your while and figure out how much you can potentially save or make over the next 20 years. And once we get into that world, we're going to start figuring out all these different financing strategies of real estate, creative financing, house hacking. When is house hacking something that you need to consider doing? And I would say there's two areas. One, before you've built a portfolio that you can manage yourself or have an investment manager do it for you, and you are in the accumulation stages. So let's just say from 20 to 30, and you're single and you have the means to do this. And not to say that if you're married or have somebody else living with you that you can't do this, but it's a whole lot easier for a single individual to do this. Now, on the other side of the equation, let's say you're in retirement and you may feel like you're a little short in the retirement income space. Well, do you have spare rooms in your house that you're willing to rent out to someone that you have vetted with a background check? That's completely doable. So it may not, house hacking may not be specifically for someone that's in their, family and child rearing years, but it's definitely for an individual that is, pre-married or is accumulating, and then on the other side of the fence, maybe you're closer to retirement or in retirement, and there's nobody there to say no to the situation, because it does involve, if there's two people talking about house hacking together, one or the other may not want that extra, one or two people living in the house. However, this is a definite real estate multiplier. And so when you figure out if it's something for your situation, you have to say, yes, I'm interested in house hacking. It's going to make or save you a lot of money. So when we talk about working with real estate agents, a lot of them are going to be commission based. You need to understand the agency relationship specifically with the real estate agent that you're working with. You need to understand what the commission is going to be on whether you're working with them as a buyer commission or a buyer transaction or a seller transaction. Highly recommend negotiating what you're going to be paying your real estate agent, and then also understanding what the market conditions currently are in your area, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. But always know this: the commission is negotiable with the real estate agent. They may not want to negotiate with you, but ultimately at the end of the day, if an individual is only getting paid off of real estate, so let's just say I solely make money off of real estate, odds are they're not going to be as willing to negotiate their commission rates. Is it possible? Yes, but probably not likely. Now, if an individual is getting paid on real estate and they also do, mortgages, or they also do investments, or they also do some other financial services transaction, they're a little bit more likely to negotiate on their commission, because their livelihood is not completely tied to the real estate transaction. So you have to ask yourself this: who do I want to work with for real estate? Does it make sense for me to go out and interview 5 real estate professionals, or do I just need to work with my best friend up the street? There's not a wrong answer. Money is not always about rates of returns and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, if it's going to make or save you a substantial amount of money by working with an individual that is there to protect your equity and help you put more in your pocket, then it may be better to work with an individual that's taking a little less out of the equity. So ultimately, you have to figure out what it is, what's right for your situation. Real estate transactions are a big area that, whether you're in retirement or whether you are working, that it's an area that you can definitely make and save a lot of money for your specific situation. So we'll talk about the next set of rates of return in the episode of the Main Street Money Shoot podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.